Are you struggling for consistency in your sim racing? Does your iRating look like a roller coaster? If so, we have good news for you. The way to get more consistent is to first understand what you're doing differently than the professionals. And VRS is the answer. With our competitive subscription, you will have the telemetry, setups, tutorials, and everything else you need to fully analyze your driving. Our data packs and the ability to compare your driving with the best in the world will show you exactly where to adjust your inputs, change your driving line, and shave seconds off of your lap times. And our powerful and precise Direct Force Pro wheelbase and precision pedals are being used by some of the world's best drivers, including Peter Berryman, John Robertson, Brandon Trano, and IndyCar world champion Alex Palou. All these champions agree that VRS hardware is not just the best on the market, it's also priced well below the competition. So if you're looking to upgrade to direct drive and the best pedals in sim racing, VRS is your answer. If you want to get better, get faster, and make it happen sooner rather than later, you owe it to yourself to find out why so many people are switching to VRS. You'll be so glad that you did. Visit www.virtualracingschool.com and learn why the best use VRS.
Welcome to the Weekend Warriors Spec Racer Ford here on Apex Racing TV, presented by iRacing and RaceSpot TV. My name's Adam Hadfield. I'm joined in the box tonight by Sam Fitzpatrick. Sorry, Sam, I've already messed up, and Jonathan Grabowski on the cameras. Our opening round sees us in the wonderful Stadium of Speed, Cathedral of Speed even, Monza, where 50 plus drivers look to battle it out on this classic venue, first opened in 1923. Sam, you're joining me for this season 2 of 2022. Welcome into the box. How are you looking forward to tonight?
Really looking forward to tonight. I mean, this is a really cool circuit for these cars. I've done a few of these races in the past. Raid Atlanta, I think, was the last one I did. And the draft effect is so strong that you can be around quite a tight, twisty circuit and you still have pack racing. Imagine what we're going to have around this place. The drivers are not going to be able to pull away from one another whatsoever. It's going to be super close up there. Really, a lot of drivers are going to have a chance at winning each of the three classes. So it really should be a good start to the season.
Yep, we've got a 40-minute race coming your way. One stop in there. The boys are just ending their qualifying runs now. 30 minutes open qualifying, which is seeing Arabian top of the standings. We're joined by our three champions from last season in the spec race, in the Spec 1. Aero Nom rejoins us to defend his championship. Chris Murakami for the Masters category, you see in yellow on the timing screen. And Alan McCain is also back with us, looking to defend his Spec Racer Spec 2 championship. Now, before we go any further, I'll just give a shout out to our sponsor. RaceVoice is proud to be the exclusive sponsor of the Weekend Warrior Spec Race Ford Racing Series. Take your driving to the next level with on-track audible performance, alerts with RaceVoice and RaceVoiceSIM, hear miles per hour, turn entry and exit speeds, upshift alerts and other performance metrics which are selected and configured by you. Go faster with the speed of voice. Plus, watching this broadcast with us tonight, Weekend Warriors get 50% off annual sim pricing using the promo code of WW50. Check them out at www.racevoice.com. So we've got about 5 minutes of warm-up time before we head to the grid. Sam, are there any drivers who have caught your eye already tonight?
Well, Nom is a bit of a legend on Apex Racing TV because obviously he's won several titles in this championship. I think he's also been very successful in the Rikmotech series as well, and so always going to watch out for him. Also winner as well. It's a brilliant name, one of the best names out there, and of course Arabian up at the top. But the good thing with this series is that we're going to have battles all the way down the field, and such a wide variety of competitiveness in this field as well, and those three classes really enabling everyone to be fighting for a championship. So it should be competitive all the way down. We're running aboard with Antonio Rees at the moment. I don't believe this lap will count for him. I think he starts this lap after the checker flag was already out, so he's just having a little bit of extra track time out there, as they all seem to be taking a very tight line through Parabolica, almost as though it's very excessively wide is that corner. They don't need to use the entire track. Instead, they want to value the slightly shorter run to the line instead, as we move into this little segment of 5-minute warm-up, whilst the drivers can just cool down after qualifying before we head into the race.
Yep, now I've already mentioned we've got our defending champions in all three categories returning to us. I think we've got the points from last season, which we can run through just to give everyone an idea of just how close and tight this series is. Our Spec 1 Championships standings up on your screens now. As we've already mentioned, the legend of the series, Nom, claiming yet another championship here last year, winning it out by 917 points to Austin winners 839. The last winner of the regular season, week 12 at Sharp Motorsport, Yuangshi Lin, came home in third overall from Jörg Marni, Tony Bartman, and several other names in there who claimed victories and overall podiums throughout the season. Season Spec 2 drivers. Up next, Al McCain, as we've already mentioned, in what was an exceedingly tight championship. That one went right down to the very final few laps in Charlotte. Multiple drivers having issues at that particular meeting, and we were speaking long into the night about who had actually ended up winning it. Drop points also coming into to play there, but Al McCain ended up claiming it on 494, just 3 points ahead of his main championship rival Jason Green. Flavio Endalo and Andrea Favini were also at points ahead in that championship at the final round. But again, other names in there: Ian Gibson, Paul Jackson, John Batenga, and Sancinelli, all drivers that we saw. Tom Renders as well was a new addition towards the end of the season, down there 15th overall. I expect if we see him again frequently this year, he'll be challenging overall for the Spec 2 honours. And finally, our Masters class. This class 4 drivers over the 55 of age, won out by Chris Murakami. Last year in the interview room, we were almost getting bored of speaking to him. Week in, week out, he seemed to be claiming the victories. His main title rival tended to be Antonio Reyes in that one, although Antonio didn't join us for all the rounds, hence Jim Brewster actually came second overall on 433. And just to mention there, our series organiser Steve Ray, 4th overall. Let's see if he can't get himself a little bit further up the standings this year as we enter Season 2 of the 2022.
Yeah, and I mean, I've raced in a series that I've sort of been involved in the administration before, and I've just given myself a 200-point bonus. I mean, I'm not sure if Steve has kind of realised that he could just do that. So maybe you'll be using those tactics this season, or maybe he could get some more race wins. We'll see what he elects to do, as you see all the drivers just setting some extra practice times at the moment. I always you can't sort of ask this, Adam, with when we have sort of these 5-minute breaks. It's always quite a new thing in iRacing that we even have the option to do this. But I mean, I tend to just sit back and I don't know, go do something else for 5 minutes, stretch my legs or something. But it seems like most drivers are quite keen to just get that extra little bit of practice, maybe practice their racecraft a little bit before they go into the race. I don't know what kind of your mindset is when you kind of have these little periods before races where you don't have to drive, but you do have the choice to.
Yeah, I've got to say, I always talk myself into it's not worth going out of the pits again. You're only going to do a lap or more. What else are you going to learn? And yet, every chance, I still go out there just to turn the wheel again, see if I can't discover something that I haven't learned previous to now. Obviously, on board with Dantas, and that's not how you take the exit of Ascari. That's something you can chalk up for the race. Don't do it like that when we get started here. But these low-powered cars, they're still a handful, aren't they? Popping over the curbs, trying to carry as much speed as possible, and there's always the risk of spinning out with these, with the engines slung out of the back of them.
Yeah, they're one of the older cars, as far as I'm aware, at least, on the iRacing service, but of course have been updated over the years as well, obviously. And yeah, they do produce one of the absolute best racing. That the slipstream effect in these cars is so powerful, despite not being super powerful in the actual cars. They really do still encourage pack racing, so it's really at least, you know, I haven't raced these too much, but I think of these as proper sort of competition cars, not necessarily the absolute best to race around by yourself, but when you're with 20 or, on this case, 55 other drivers on a track, there is not much better car to drive in. As the warm-up is over, and well, we'll soon be going through your grid. We've got a little bit of time, and thank goodness we've got the time with the pace car going to lead us around. It gives us a bit of time to go through the grid.
Yeah, it's not the longest time, is it? Pace car starts on the back half of the circuit, exiting the second Lesmo. So I've only got a short amount of time. I'm going to run you through as many drivers as we can. Friends Arabian claims the first pole of the season, setting a 2:07.5. He'll be ecstatic with that to start this season off. Steve Ellison joins him on the front row, just a matter of 100th away from that pole position. Aero Nom, our series defending champion, starts third alongside Maurizio Maselli. Austin Winner in 5th place. He'll be looking to move forward from there, often sharing the battles for the win. Tom Renders, I mentioned him before, a new driver, currently rated Spec 2. If he keeps on performing like that, he'll soon be joining the Spec 1 drivers. Jörg Marni starts 7th from Chris Murakami, our first Masters driver. Jason Green in 9th and Paolo Gori in 10th, first Italian on the grid. Battling Marco Pinero from the looks of it, the next Italian, starting 11th. Juice Simpkins, our next Spec 2 driver, in 12th position. 13th on the grid, Gabriele Lubati. Alan McCain, 2022 Season 1 Spec 2 winner. Andreas Bertoni in 15th from Edgar Sancinelli. Kurt Nunez, 17th from Guillaume Cravo. Bobby West heads up the 10th row from Artur Luero. Rasmus Fury, Bob Kern, Ryan Flagg and Jim Brewster in 24th. 25th place for Todd Hansen. Antonio Reyes will be looking to climb from there. Disappointed for him in 26th. Andrea Favini in 27th and Johan Butenga 28th. Matthias Feiger, Evandro Dantas. Jason Perry well down the grid for a Spec 1 driver in 31st. Brian D. Short in 32nd. From Michael Nelson, Paul Jackson, Adam Bradshaw, Sandy Satulo. Jamie McGuinness, Miro Hiratsky, Jeff Jacobson, Jose Santiago, Ian Gibson, Jory Cox, Luca Leone in 43rd from Joshua Bohr-Bronkowski, Steve Ray, series founder, in 45th from Bruno Conti, Gary Wilbot in 47th, Rob Adams 48th, Jan Loggin in 49th, George Flores in 50th, Michael Vaglin 51st, Fabio Andalo coming from 52nd, Samuel Dick, Marcus Burkett, and last but not least in our 55 grey car grid, Marco Trespidi, and we're under lights now. Pace car pulls off. Holding. Drivers all in formation, eagerly watching those lights. And we're away. Drivers dart out as we run down to turn 1. Even start from the front 3 rows as, oh no, Aero Nom slots out. Clearly got a better run than even I thought off there, and he's looking to claim the lead straight away. I think he has done so. Clears it, under brakes, everyone. Deep on the brakes, a little bit of contact in the back, but the front row all making it through the front 3 rows, all through this first chicane. Oh no, and we've got a spin in the middle. Oh, it's chaos.
Yeah, that was
Left,
in the
right,
mid-20s,
and
I think. Yeah, mid-20s was that initial instant, and the guys around that area had no chance of avoiding those outside the top 30. It was just to cut across the chicane would be a huge slowdown, but much better than getting involved in that big wreck. Couple more moves heading into the second chicane. Bertoni moving up Labazzi, and Sancinelli also having furious bouts there, but you can see the gap now sort of formed just behind Matej Weiger, it seems. So about 21st and 22nd, that's where kind of the split was made with that contact. I must say the top 20 did a brilliant job at avoiding that, and besides some little bit of tapping under the braking right at the back, seemed very clean. Here was the 3 wide. Oh, just kind of shut the door a little bit, it seemed, did one of the drivers there, and it was Nunez, in fact, that driver, and did well to reverse out of the way in the end.
Yeah, number 916 Nunez there. He just got a little bit wide, didn't he? Sort of a 3 wide situation, and then tapped and spun. And then it just sort of parked everyone. No one with anywhere to go, nose to tail as they were. We had about a 10 car bumper to bumper, bumper to rear bumper. Gladly, no one with any significant damage, I don't think. Meanwhile, we're on the back of Arabian. We're watching Aero Nom come shooting by with a massive toe to take the lead. He was third as they exited Ascari, I'm sure, and now he's in the lead as we come through Parabolica to end the first lap. That's some great driving from Aero Nom there, proving just why he's the series champion.
Yeah, and gets in that track position early on. As, well, some of the racing in these early stages is going to be absolutely frantic. Of course, you don't want to lose too much time battling in this scenario, but you do want to get track position. Of course, if you're not attacking, you will be defending. You can't just wait behind and hope that no one else, you know, doesn't overtake you. You've got to be moving forwards, otherwise you are moving back. And you can see Labazzi and West and Perry and Buori all in this very tight battle. A little bit further back in this one is Bertoni now at the front of it, ahead of Simpkins and Kane, who's up a couple of places. Bertoni actually up 5 places overall. He's the highest gainer in the top 15.
Yeah, a few places made by several drivers there, managing to avoid first lap incident. As we go back to Paul Jackson here, he's got Kurt Nunez and Brewster right in behind him. Through one of the fastest parts of the circuit between the 2 chicanes. Sort of on his own, really. It's surprising we're only on the first lap, but obviously a few gaps have already appeared ahead of him. Satullo and Kerner going side by side, with Haraski as well, all bumping over the curbs, and they all get it sorted on the exit there. Good job, boys. I think it's, is it Cravo who's got the slightly bent front there, unfortunately, number 64.
Nom and Arabian seem to have been changing positions quite a bit out in the lead a bit. Neither of them really pulling a gap. There is Nom just a little bit ahead, but yeah, you can't. So it's very not too important the track position at the moment between those guys, and still a lead pack of about 15 cars so far will all be getting the draft from one another. Some of the guys near the back will be producing some excellent speeds down the long straights here at Monza. We run aboard with Elson here, using a bit more of the space through the parabolic than what we were seeing in qualifying, and then starting to charge down the pit straight once again. Nom and do very well to hang on to this lead if you possibly can.
Yeah, I think the interesting thing, Sam, is not can you pull away from the drivers behind you, it's how much of a pack are you going to pull with you. Obviously you want the pack as small as possible as we're going into turn 1 again, and Arabian decides that he wants to snatch back the lead. Aero Nom doesn't put up too much of a fight. Oh, he's got Elson sticking his nose in on the inside though as they exit the chicane. Nelson possibly with a slightly poor exit. That's going to put Austin Winner on his outside as we go around the Curva Grande now. On behind them, Naselli as well. Oh, not quite able to pull out there. I wonder if we'll see much bump drafting here tonight.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, because I think when I've commentated on this series before, I haven't seen too much bump drafting, but I mean, this is such a slipstream type of circuit. Will there be bump drafting, or is it quite a risk in these cars?
I think interestingly, it's more of a thing that happens sort of towards the lower reaches of the grid, sort of outside your top 10. The front runners don't tend to do it all that much. Whether there's a risk involved, obviously they've got quite a pitched nose on the front of these cars. You could possibly end up lifting the rear of the car in front, but generally I guess it's not that much of a thing. but occasionally you do catch it. If we go on board with a few drivers, we might see it during tonight. As we're back here again with Haraski, Tulo, Kern all battling away. Meanwhile, Bobby West. Sorry, Sam, I was just going to cut to Bobby West. He's overtaken Perry there, Jason Perry. These guys fighting over 16th, 17th, Viger in behind in 18th. These guys are just a little bit off the back of your 15-car lead train, aren't they? Desperately trying to get back to it as Jason Perry now pulls into the inside and slots back across the nose of Bobby West. Bobby giving him a little bit of space so as not to compromise his entry into this one. I imagine these three are thinking work together and try and get back onto the back of that 15-car train at the front.
Yeah, this is where you got to be pragmatic and decide for who's the fastest and let them be in front and also tow everyone else along as we here into the rev limiter. That was Naselli who we were riding on board with, 3 wide heading into turn 1. Are they all going to be able to get it stopped? Well, in the end it was really good.
No, Arabian's
and across there is Arabian, and that's going to be a really big slowdown for him, so crucial mistake there. It means that winner moves up into 2nd place and Arabian is surely going to drop, or maybe even into the outskirts of the top 10.
Yeah, anyone new to iRacing, we have slowdown penalties applied if ever you cut a corner, and the iRacing system will jump in and tell you you've been a naughty boy and you've got to give up some time. You've got a set amount of time to deal with that within, so you might in Arabian's case have to give up 2 or 3 seconds in the space of a 30-second window, which I think he's now done. He looks to be back up to speed now and he's still part of this 15-car battle, so not everything is lost for him. I imagine we'll see him battling for the win later on tonight still. He's going to have his work cut out to get by the guys in front though. As we go on board with our Masters leader, Chris Murakami, he's got no one else about him in his own class, so he's decided to come and play with the Spec 1 boys.
Yeah, this is super impressive so far from Murakami. You can see Rios way behind, so not going to be much of a battle, at least it looks like, between those guys. Just seeing the gap between Winner and Naselli now, it's 1.6 seconds. Would that be enough to break the draft? I mean, could we see a 2-car breakaway here?
Yeah, I would say anywhere about the 2-second mark, you're starting to break the slipstream. We'll see over the next lap if they can stretch it just another 10th or so. I would say that they've broken free. Obviously, Naselli, Ellison, Pinero, all going to try and work to stop that from happening, but as we're watching the timings on the left-hand side of your screens, we're above 2 seconds now, and I do wonder if there's no more mistakes from the two in front. They might just have snapped the elastic that's keeping everyone held together. Naselli and Elson, meanwhile, are side by side behind. Elson just ducks across the front, take the optimum line into the first chicane. As we go on board with Naselli, that's Pinero on our inside, hopping over the curb. Everyone being nice and respectful at the moment. But yeah, as you say, I think Nom and Winner might just have pulled the pin and got the gap now.
Yeah, good work from those guys, and that does sort of show the value of being near the front. There is a breakaway. You want to be on the right side of sort of the gap that's formed. So good work from them guys. But yeah, these guys still trying to sort of work together. They are switching places a lot, but trying to use the momentum as they move past one another to gain whatever time they can. There's Arabian. I think he's up into 7th place now. I think he was down to 8th or 9th previously, so he's been able to get past Gory. And next up for him will be Manny ahead. And still sorts of 15 cars this goes down to. Perry having a really good time of it. Perry up, I think, 14 places. My time screen's just gone for a moment.
Yeah,
but he was just behind that big pile-up we saw. And I think was basically the first driver to do the cut through the first chicane. He managed to avoid any of that mess and is up to 16.
Yeah, Jason Perry's come up from 31st on the grid. Might as well also mention Matthias Weiger up from 29th to 18th. Those two are obviously making good use of the runoff to avoid all that incident that we saw on the opening lap. Join Weiger now. He's on the... Oh, as Bobby West suddenly snatches out behind and driver in front gets a run off of the back of Perry. Was that West or... Sorry, Hansen. Hanson, who obviously got a poor exit out of Ascari. I'm not sure if he got a little bit loose in the middle. Bobby West had to duck out to keep up his momentum. Weiger and Vori in behind as well. Not forgetting in 21st place Labatti there, just off the back of these boys. As we stream across the line now to end lap 5. Oh, meanwhile, group number 2 in this race. Marnie and Naselli are side by side, and everyone else is side by side behind as well. And contact, Naselli's, oh! They've all kept it going in the right direction. But if there was any hope of them catching the lead too, I think it's just gone with that.
For sure, and Naselli dropping down significantly. Not sure whose fault that was. Maybe it was Naselli cutting across. I'm sure Naselli won't agree with that one. Manny, though, up into 3rd place, but they're still battling for that podium place. Pinero now moving up into 3rd position, and Arabian up 2 more places since the last time that we saw him. He's up back into the top 5, and this pack is as close as they have ever been, and this will be good news as well for West and Prey and Hanson and Co to get back involved in this one. So after all of that, Pinero back up into 3rd position, Manny in 4th, and Naselli drops all the way down to 9th place. And look how close as well the 2nd division classes are as well. Simpkins, Renders, McCain, Sanchinelli, all very close to one another.
Yeah, I wonder if we might get a little bit of a replay of that incident into the first chicane, into the Refilio, just to see exactly who we can place the blame on. Here we go. We've got Marnie on the left, Naselli on the right. They're all nicely through the first one. Then yeah, I think that's got to be on Naselli, hasn't it? He's gone for the apex when Marnie's still there. What are your thoughts, Sam?
I agree a lot there. That was odd, wasn't it? That, you know, he knew that they were fully alongside. He was behind going into the corner. Yeah, it seemed to turn in a lot, and really didn't leave a lot of space, considering how these guys have been leaving a lot of space so far, particularly in lap 1. They were very good for the top guys, so surprised that he sort of made that mistake there, and could well do a little bit of damage to the car as well. Won't help him. Elson into the pits. Will he be able to get to the end of the race from that?
Yeah, I would imagine so from there. These cars are running a limited fuel tank to ensure a pit stop tonight, but I imagine there's enough in the tank to go for at least 30 minutes around this high-speed Monza. Oh, as nipping across the chicane, that's Pinero. He's going to have the slowdown that Arabian did earlier. He's going to have to wash by several cars now. Marnie and Arabian have already gone. The next set of cars comes shooting past him now. As he comes around the outside, leaving plenty of room on the inside. He's still serving the penalty, I think, as cars slide by him. Oh, and just, he's going to get touched. Yeah, I thought so. Simpkins was in, too hot behind him, gave him a nudge as he snuck across the chicane. No, he's there. He made it through. He's served his penalty now, and actually that little bit of contact from behind has served to give him some room behind, so he won't be immediately under any further pressure. He can put his eyes forward now, try and recover what he's just lost.
He did well to make the corner right there, did Pinero, because you could sort of see that contact coming on the off-board. Got hit, and I mean, I would have been full thoughts or just scampering across the chicane, but he sort of did the wiser thing there, still tried to make the chicane to pick up a slowdown, and just lost the one place. I wonder if Simpkins will actually let this one go. So now it's quite a blatant mistake from him. As here's a replay of when Pinero went off the track. In fact, I think this might be a little bit later on. I think this is just picking up a 1x on the iRacing system here. Very easy to do, using all of that sorts of patch of green on the outside of the circuit. Pinero back to 8th place, then back past Simpkins, and if he had a gap over his class rivals, it has very much been eliminated very quick there, as Winner just moving back into the lead, but geez, they are a long way there now on the rest of the field.
Yeah, maybe we should mention the incident point system in iRacing for any of our viewers who are new to iRacing or this series. Anytime you make contact with another driver or get an off track, you'll pick up penalty points known as 1x's. or in the event of heavy contact with a rival, either a 2x or a 4x. Those X's get added up, stay on your record for the race, and if you accumulate 12 in this series during the race, you'll pick up a penalty, a drive-through, and if you're unfortunate and naughty enough to pick up 18 of those incident points, you will be disqualified. So something to look out for, especially with such tight racing here tonight. Eventually, plenty of contact.
Seems like Pinera's
Speaking
had
of
a
contact.
secondary off. Ooh, he moved across a bit there, did Pinera. It looked like moved from behind, and very fortunate that more drivers didn't get involved in that one, but Pinera just a little bit late to cover off that one. He should have really covered off the inside a bit earlier, but instead it was only when the opponent seemed to move alongside that he started moving across, albeit, of course, from that chopper angle, not obvious to see.
Yeah, the viewers at home can't see me, but I'm shaking my head at that one. That was reckless, very reckless from Pinero to move so suddenly and late in the game when the move was already taking place. Thankfully for the other drivers, they didn't get involved. Pinero. Oh, speaking of incidents, we've got Reyes. No, sorry, it's Simpkins, the number 377, backwards through Ascari. He's down in 20th place at the moment. I think he may have just lost a position to Reyes in that one, but no more. We've kind of got a little bit of open space around us in at the bottom 20, haven't we? Oh, just in the distance, though, you can see the battle that's taking place in the mid-teens. About 10 cars all on top of each other, and immediately we cut to it. We've got McCain, West, Perry, Sancinelli, and several others all battling over this territory. At the front, Perry, Renders, and Murakami. No, sorry, Murakami's off the front of this one. It's Perry, Hansen, and Sancinelli who are 3 wide into the first chicane. And Hansen leads out of that one. These boys are showing us that you can go side by side down the main straight without contact, even doing it 3 wide.
Yeah, that was a good job, and a couple of those drivers went in very deep. I think Perry in particular barely made the chicane, but he actually carried a lot of speed. And look at the lead as well from McCain, really catching up to these guys significantly. In fact, I think that may have been Sancinelli. No, it was McCain, apologies. Sancinelli third in this chain. It was the Bushfink car of McCain just gaining time on those drivers. Shame to see that mistake on the previous lap for one of the drivers. Apologies, it was one of the Class 2 drivers who has actually dropped down a little bit further now, but yeah, still very competitive up at the front, and yeah, really could be anyone's game between Renders and Hansen and Kobe. Renders now a little bit further ahead, being able to break away. The 257 looking racy. There is Renders just on the back of Murakami, 2 of your class leaders at the moment in this race. But then once you get onto this part of the track, so possible to make moves, and Perry, who has been making a lot of moves so far, he's up 20 places, is Jason Perry, super experienced driver, of course, and he is going to move up into the top 10 for what I believe will be the first time. Good work there from him, and Sancinelli will try to go with it.
Yeah, another driver we haven't mentioned making moves up the grid. I think our biggest mover, Flavio Andalo, up from 52nd on the grid. He's currently running in 27th place. He's got Ian Gibson and Michael Nelson just in front. As we switch back to him now. Andalo, the number 415, making great progress up the grid. He's got a little bit of space in front of him now to try and work his way up to the next set of drivers, but I imagine he's hoping for a maybe break into the top 20. He's got 20 more minutes to do that in, as he hugs the inside as he's going for the pits. He doesn't on this occasion, but there are several drivers who are in the pit lane, including Naselli, we've just seen exit. We've got Jason Green in there, Alan McCain, Sancinelli, all these drivers who were in the teen positions deciding to come in as a group, which obviously makes sense. You come in together, you get out together, you continue to benefit from the draft.
Yeah, so front runner of the drivers who have pitted them is Naselli, followed by Andalo. behind him. Oh, apologies, Andalacci starts from the pit, so he will need to make a pit stop later on. McCain and Green are second and third of the drivers who have pitted, but still the top 16 all yet to pit as we move into the second half of this race now. So obviously you can certainly go to the end from here. Winner and Nom still your top two. Of course, we had a very big pack of about 15 cars earlier on, but about 5 minutes in there was some batting behind, and these two were able to pull away, and the gap not really extending, but it's very comfortable, over 6 seconds to the rest of the field. Arabian actually was leading in the early stages. That feels like a while ago now, but picked up a third and dropped back in the pack, and when that sort of chasm formed, Arabian was on the wrong side of it. And so he sort of just bested the rest ahead of Gory and Manny. Let's see if any of these top 5 come in on this lap. I imagine they'll probably try to stretch it out as long as possible, because whilst they are close to one another, they're not losing each other time being this close.
Yeah, it's interesting to see when different drivers and different groups of drivers decide to slot into the pit lane. We're watching as a couple of back markers coming out now. Going to make sure they keep out of the way of this battle. Yep, nice and slow on the entry to the first chicane. Good job there to keep out of the way of this fight. These boys all fighting over third places. Oh, Arabian gets out onto the gravel just for a second there. Just compromises his exit. Marnie might decide he wants to take the position off him before we get to the Della Roggia. Yeah, just going back to the pit strategy. Obviously, we mentioned it's obviously in your interest to come in as a group and benefit from the slipstream. Another benefit of coming in or following each other around and coming into the pits together is obviously you're going to be saving fuel doing that, benefiting from the draft. I wonder if we'll see that tonight, any drivers making up big positions by having a shorter pit stop, having to put less fuel in the car.
Yeah, I mean, I've been doing a lot of kind of GT3 commentary recently, and that seems to be the thing which sort of decides most of the races, where the drivers spend the first 2/3 of the race with one thing on their mind, and that's just to save fuel, and then have a shorter pit stop, get track position, and then actually push in the second half of the race. I feel like these guys, at least from just eyeballing it, it seems like they have been pushing a lot more, but saving those few litres can be very important. I mean, could you imagine if Norm, for example, could save a second and a half worth of fuel? That would mean that he could book the draft after the pit stop and maybe end up on top, so it is a crucial factor. Seeing Bradshaw here on the back of Brewster. A lot of the Masters drivers in a row here. Burkett at the top, and here is a little bit of the bump drafting. Love to see it. As Winner comes into the pit, Nom decides to stay out, so I think that's probably good for Nom. He's going to have a lap here where he's on very low fuel, whilst Winner will have a lap where he's got a bit more fuel.
Yeah, I want to stick with Winner if we can. When he comes out of the pit, let's just see what kind of neighbourhood he comes out into. Is he going to be all on his own, or is he going to be surrounded by traffic and potentially losing time? Ahead of us we see Arabian pull into the pits. He's in pit stall 1, you can see at the end of the pits there, as virtue of qualifying on pole position. Winner spins his tyres and he's away. And comes out onto the track. He's got 2 drivers bearing down on him at the moment, but I think he's going to be up to speed and they're not going to catch him. No, they're way off the back of him. So it looks like Winner's going to have a lap or 2 all on his own. Let's hope he doesn't psych himself out and can just keep hitting his apexes. Marnie, meanwhile, is going to have those 2 slightly slower drivers. No, they're not slower drivers, are they? These are guys who have pitted before. That's Naselli who's right on the back of him.
Yeah, so that will be for position. I can't recall who was ahead between Manny and Naselli previously. I think they were just very close, to be honest. Check position, not so important. And they've remained close after that pit stop sequence. And Arabian a bit further back. I would have thought Arabian would be closer to Manny and Naselli there. But he's now got a bit of catching up to do, which he's already done. Previously, of course, he was about 2.5, well, he's now 2.5 seconds behind those guys. I think he was a similar margin back earlier on. But yeah, just going to have to push into that clean air in order to make up that gap later on. As we're waiting to see if anyone else is going to come into the pits. Just trying to figure out Naselli's pit stop time. It was a bit longer, in fact, a really short pit stop for Manny then. So Manny was only 12 seconds stationary, Meanwhile, Winner and Naselli were 14.5 seconds saved. That's a big difference, 2.5 seconds saved in the pit stop.
Yeah, Naselli not with the worst pit stop though. There are a few drivers. We said Arabian had fallen off, 15 seconds behind. Alan McCain, unfortunately, our Spec 2 champion with a 15.9. So clearly some guys with a little bit of work to do on how to get into and out of their pit stall and just optimise that. Meanwhile, we're looking at Bobby West. He slides right and into the pit lane. Jason Perry on his tail. These guys up into 7th prior to the pit lane shuffle now. I should mention leaders in Spec 2 and the Masters also in. Tom Renders and 901 Chris Murakami. They've hit their boxes, getting their fuel filled. And away they go, wheels spinning out into the pit lane again. Just watch your speeds. Some of these boys will have the pit limiter mapped to their steering wheel. Others might be just feathering the throttle. Meanwhile, Naselli gets back out in front of Marnie on the way down. We're into lap 13 now. 26 minutes on the clock gone. 14 more to go to sort out some more fantastic battling, I imagine, Sam.
Yeah, more of the same, if that's possible. I'm sure they'll keep it up. Green is just being overtaken there by Rios. And then he's got McCain just behind him. Of course, had that slightly slower pit stop that you pointed out. About 1.5 seconds slower than the average, which has set him back slightly. But he could well be past Green heading into the second chicane here. Northern Irish driver. Maybe just waiting behind a little bit for now. Yeah, good job actually from Rios. He's up 12 places. He was a bit further down earlier on. I don't think it was even a brilliant start. It wasn't like Perry who gained half of his places. Sort of on lap 1, Rios has had to kind of gain them as the race has gone on. But all these drivers have pitted. Only drivers yet to pit, Satulo, and then also Nom, Gori, Bertoni, and Viger as well. The only drivers left to pit, as one of those drivers comes into pit, Aero Nom, and he was able to go, I believe, 2 laps longer than what we saw Winner be able to go. So this will potentially be very successful for Nom. Those couple of laps on lower fuel, of course, could prove very useful, albeit I think both of them were in similar levels of traffic.
Yeah, Austin Winner came in on lap 11, had a bit of a slow stop, 15 seconds. I expect Aeronom will have his lap down. Oh, someone just overshot the box there. As we switch back to Winner now. Let's see where he is. Nom's on pit exit. Winner's at full tilt. Nom's getting up to speed though. I think he's going to be ahead. It's going to be a matter of car lengths and whether Winner's still in the slipstream, I think, at this point. Oh, was just in front of them. Someone's slotted across the chicane, but Aeronom claims the lead, and it looks like he's got a 2-second advantage over Austin Winner. Austin with all the work to do now, and I think that was all done on pit stop time. Austin Winner stationary for 15 seconds. Aeronom only stationary for 14.3 actually, so maybe not all in the pits. Maybe a few fast in laps is what's got him that advantage.
Yeah, that's exactly the gap that he needed, and good work there for not making absolutely no mistakes when it mattered there. Just maybe saving a little bit of fuel as well, that 0.7 of a second difference. Perhaps just lifting and coasting every now and again during that first step, maybe spending an extra couple of laps behind his rival. Often it can be an advantage to be second place for most of the race so that you can save that fuel, and Noel's taken full use of that, albeit Winner still within 2 seconds, albeit he'll have to close up that gap on skill rather than just relying on the toe to gain that back. But Tony in third position ahead of Naselli, and here comes Naselli. That is a lot of overspeed for the number 44, and he moves to third position ahead of Bertoni. Manny in 5th place, and Arabian still a bit detached, 2.5 seconds behind. He hasn't really closed in that gap since the pit stops, when he came out a bit surprisingly far back, and the car number 2 will do very well to gain back that gap by the end. This sort of top 10 a little bit more spread out, and then even outside the top 10 as well, it's a bit spread out. Really, our first big pack is the green battle from 12th position down to about Sancinelli in 17th.
Yeah, we haven't really mentioned Andres Bertoni, have we? He's on the grid in 15th place. He's now running up in 4th at the moment. He was in 3rd at the start of this lap. Looking at his lap times as well, I know times during this race are going to be heavily influenced by the draft, but he's got one of the I think he's got the second best lap time with a 2:08.19, so clearly carrying a lot of speed, and he's made his way up through the pack, and he's going to challenge for a podium tonight. Another driver I think I should mention is Antonio Reyes as well, our our Masters second place. Originally started back in 26th. He's a part of this battle we're looking at right here, right now, as we go on board with him. He's trying to chase down Chris Murakami. At one point during this race we said Chris Murakami had no one to battle in his class, he was out on his own. Well, Antonio Reyes is trying to change that. He's got drivers around him that are slowing him down and battling him maybe a little bit, but he's closing in on Chris, you know. By the end of the race, there's no reason he might not just be knocking on Chris's door, try and win this class.
Yeah, and he's got McCain now in front of him. McCain with a really nice move down the pit straight. Should be able to stay in the draft, so they could be kind of pulling each other along. Bad corner though for Green. You saw him run very wide, almost a bit of contact. I don't think there was contact, just sort of reactive to the cars around him. Green lost a few places there, been an unsuccessful lap for him so far, but still staying in the pack and will be able to draft his way back up later on this lap. Really good times right now from Winner. He's got the gap back down to 1.2 seconds, and that is when the draft will start to kick in a bit more. Actually 1.4 seconds, sometimes there can be a little bit of discrepancies, and apparently Nom's actually picked up a couple of off tracks. Not necessarily too bad. Sometimes that can be a positive sign if you're picking up off tracks. Shows that you're pushing to the limit, shows that you're using all the track, but can also mean maybe you push it a little bit too far, pick up a bit of gravel, and can slow down. Let's see which side this was. Was it the former or the latter here for Nom? See him go on the exit there, and well, that all seemed fairly clean. However, he may have picked one up as well through the second Lesmo as well, picks up a bit of curb, and again, that's just using all the tracks. So all good there for Nom, no errors seemingly, but Winner is just got the slight pace advantage right now.
Yeah, Aero's just pushing the limits, isn't he, a little bit. It's not something we're used to seeing with Aero. He's normally coolness personified, gets out there, a little bit of practice, knows what he's doing, and just goes out and wins the race, or at the very least challenges for the win. He might be under pressure now though, looking back at that time gap as it sturdily shrinks 10th by 10th. When they came out of the pits, Winner was 2 seconds off the back of Aero. It's down to 1.6 at the moment. I think Aero's just benefiting from a little bit of slipstream from cars in front of him, but that's going to be a double-edged sword as they now hold him up through the chicane. First one of them dispatched, number 377, next on the list of cars to be lapped. I'm just scrolling through to see who that is. That's Juice Simpkins, the driver we saw sideways onto the traffic at the Ascara chicane earlier in the race. Obviously that incident has put him back in the group. As now we jump back to Antonio Reyes with Vori, Green, and it looks like McCain's had some kind of incident to slip back in the group.
Yeah, McCain was making progress. He was right at the front, wasn't he? At one point, I was sort of saying how Reyes would be able to follow behind him, but yeah, that's no longer the case, and it's Viori, who we're not sure what class he is. Viori and Labazzi don't have their own special class, just to be clear, but instead they are actually, Viori's actually, both of them are actually Spec 1. I'm just hearing, even though that doesn't come up on my overlay, at least. So yeah, both sorts of still doing well right now. Certainly not easy to beat the Spec 2s whatsoever. As we might get a replay actually of McCain being overtaken. He seemed to lose lots of places in quick succession here. I think this might explain how that happened.
Well, he didn't seem to have a bad exit out of Ascari there, did he? Reyes just with a slightly better run. Unless he got a slowdown. Was it a slowdown maybe? As Vori's also going to go past him. No, McCain still seems to be in the throttle there. No real loss of pace. maybe just got a little bit freight trained, lost a couple of positions, and you know how that can mess with you. You start to move back, and then everyone starts coming past you as you struggle to regain your momentum. Not struggling for momentum. Green takes over the front of this. Vori around the front of Reyes. Reyes now parked in the middle of this group, not where he wants to be. He wants to be out front and chasing down the couple of drivers in front of him. We've only got 4 minutes left on the clock. Just take you through the top 10. Aero Nom and Austin Winner out front. First and second separated by 1.7 now. Maybe Aero Nom's decided that enough with the fun and games. He's just going to run away with it. In the background we can see Naselli has claimed third, and he looks to have pulled a little bit of a gap from the drivers behind. Jörg Marni currently running in fourth from Florence Arabian, our pole sitter. Gore is in sixth from Bertoni, who we mentioned earlier has made some great progress. Tom Renders in eighth. Our Spec 2 driver doing a fabulous job there inside the top 10 from Bobby West, and Chris Murakami, our Spec Masters class leader, in 10th place. I can't imagine those positions are going to read exactly the same in 4 minutes time though, Sam.
No, and already a change there for Bertoni. I don't know why he was going so slowly through the second estimate, and he dropped behind Renders and West, so what was going on there? It being a slowdown? Can't really pick up a slowdown around that part of the circuit. I mean, you can sort of pick up one through the second chicane, but I doubt you'd be serving it there. That would be a very late time to serve, so odd stuff, but he's still sort of within the well, in fact he has actually dropped outside the draft range now, so I think that's unlikely. Here is Nom. That is not Austin Winner. Right behind him is the 377 car instead, much further down the order. Instead, Winner is trying to keep up right now, or trying to close the gap. Obviously, 2.3 seconds the gap is up to now. They were within 1/100th of a second that last time out, but in the end, it looks as though that shorter pit stop and those good in-laps are going to be the deciding factor in this race. Rios is battling again with Buori, who's done really well to keep at the front of this train. He's been at the front of this train for a little while now, despite the fact he always seems very vulnerable up there. Seems to just about pull enough of a gap through the corners to be safe down the straights. And Green and Hansen are still close. McCain is closing that gap back down, but might come up a bit short. And Bertoni's still struggling. I wonder if Bertoni's going to be running out of fuel, because he's now down to 10th place, and he just seems to be really slow down the straights.
I was going to mention that exact. Just as you were saying that he's slowing down, I was going to theorise on the possibility of a little bit of fuel saving. Maybe he's short-filled himself, and actually looking at his pit time, a 10-second pit stop, whereas everyone else is in for 13, 14 seconds. I fear he's underfilled himself there, Sam. Oh, as we got on board with Jason Perry, wiping his nose on the rear end of Chris Murakami's car there. There'll be some paintwork swapping going on. The 901 over on the right hand side. Chris Murakami lets Jason back onto the racing line as they approach Ascari. Meanwhile, we can see in the background that next fight is slowly closing. I can imagine Reyes in his helmet grinning like a madman, because he can see Chris Murakami now. Halfway through this race, he was about 10 seconds off the back of his Spec 2 leader, his Masters leader even. Now he's right there, but he's only going to have a lap to try and challenge him, as Aero Nom starts the final lap with a 2.8 second lead over Austin Winner.
I mean, it's incredible how Reyes has closed in, and not just, it's not just been one instant for Murakami either. It's just been rapid pace from Reyes to close down that gap. I don't think he will catch in time. He's got 1.5 seconds to catch. You can see them just ahead, but he'll be picking up barely any slipstream whatsoever. West also getting ahead of Renders. Sure, there's going to be a lot of changes on this final lap of the race. Bertoni, surely Bertoni can't get to the end of the race. He took so little fuel, as you were saying before. I think he's going to be painfully slow on this last lap, as there's some more changes, but I think that was Hansen running a little bit wide, and Bertoni maybe getting ahead. McCain has had to come into the pit, so he also short-filled. Yeah, just taking 6 seconds worth of fuel on that second stop. Doesn't drop too many places. at least for him, much better than, of course, running out on the last lap. Or, sorry, he did stop, so it wasn't pretty sure it wasn't a drive-through. It was a little top-up with fuel. So it looks like there's not going to be any changes in the top 3, but it's this 4th, 5th and 6th battle, the highest places which are likely to change in these remaining corners.
Yeah, we must be getting close to the last couple of corners now. Aero Nom out in the lead. He's through Ascari. There he is on his final victory lap, waving to the crowd, I imagine now. He's got all the time in the world from Austin Winner. Foot planted down this long back straight. One more corner to go before he claims yet another victory in this series. Just hit your marks, swing it in, pick up your apex. Nice and easy, no trouble. Cars in front of him and behind him. They're not going to bother him as he comes to the line now. Checkered flags awaits for Aero Nom, who claims his first victory of the 2022 Season 2. Meanwhile, we've got Renders around, I think. Renders suddenly dropped in on the timing board, I see. Winner in second, Naselli third. This battle comes to the line. Jason Perry claims 9th place. Bobby West in behind Tom Renders, 7th and 8th. Sorry, that was Arabian who finished 4th. I don't know why I called out Jason Perry. Murakami and Perry come across the line side by side. Murakami snatches 9th place by a matter of less than a hundredth of a second. Vori comes home 11th from Antonio Reyes, a heroic drive up through the field. As we jump to a replay of what happened to Tom Renders. Not sure if we've just overshot it on the view, have we?
Yeah, decent final lap there for Renders. Lost about 0.3 of a second to West, but it was enough to hold on to that 7th place. So not too much of a problem for him, fortunately, through there, as the drivers round in formation on their in-lap. Look at this battle. Nunez gonna beat Ray right at the line. Couldn't have left that any later. 2/100ths of a second, and in fact Nunez was in front going onto that lap, lost that position, but eventually was able to beat Ray, and of course even better for him, that was for 4th position in the in the Masters division. Is that someone running out of fuel just behind? Is that Bradshaw? No, Shorts, sorry.
Or maybe.
Shorts on fuel, one could say. He's not going to make it. He needs some help. Come on, guys.
Clutch in, Brian. The number 550 grinds to a halt within sight of the line. Oh, will anyone be nice enough just to give him a shove over the line? He's got Jacobson flying past him. There's Longin, Walbottom, Viger still on this lap. One of them flies by. The other two fly by as well. Oh, they're not going to be nice. Poor Brian Short has to watch as the last few positions slide by, and he's going to finish 40th overall, the last driver on the lead lap, but doesn't complete the lead lap, unfortunately for him. That was gutting. That was hard to watch.
Yeah, come on, guys. You know, if you're going to be last anyway, come on. Give him a bit of momentum. You know, take the position anyway. I mean, yeah, where's the spirit there? Can't get out of the car. I mean, honestly, yeah, Short needs to be getting out of the car. Give it a good push. That is incredibly close, actually. That's remarkably close. And of course, it's quite flat a circuit here. I mean, Road America, he would have had absolutely no chance. He would have been rolling backwards. At Monza, he was unlucky not to make it, as we have the race results up on screen.
Yeah, this is meant to be the friendly series, isn't it? I feel like the reputation has just been tarnished a little bit there as everyone drove past Brian Short. Meanwhile, though, we've got the results up on screen for you now. Aero Nom claims yet another victory in the Spec Race Ford Weekend Warriors, running out 2.5 seconds ahead of Austin Winner in second. A great battle until the pit stop phase, and then I think they just got separated a little bit, unfortunately. And Nom able to claim his victory. Maurizio Naselli comes home third from Ferenc Arabian, our pole sitter, ahead of Paolo Gori and Jörg Marning. Thomas Renders home in 7th place from Bobby West. Thomas Renders, our Spec 2 champion for the night. Chris Murakami wins the Masters and comes home 9th overall, 24 seconds off the lead, but just a matter of a few thousandths ahead of Jason Perry in 10th. Rasmus Furi comes home in 11th from Antonio Reyes. Jason Green 13th from Todd Hansen, Gabriele Labatti, Edgar Sancinelli and Andreas Bertoni in 17th, ahead of Flavio Andalo. As we wait for the scroll up, Almahir Kane comes home 19th from Marcus Burkitt, Miro Hratsky in 21st and Steve Ellison in 22nd. Johan Butenga, Kurt Nunez, series organiser Stevie Ray in 25th, almost tying across the line with Kurt Nunez. Andrea Favini comes home 26th from Guilherme Cravo and Sandy Sotullo in 28th. 29th is Ian Gibson, Artur Lero in 30th, ahead of Bob Kern 31st, Samuel Dick, Adam Bradshaw, Jim Brewster, Joe Cox, Jeff Jacobson in 36th, ahead of John Longin for Alex Carr's Rating Raptor, and Gary Wolbolt home in 38th place. 39th for Matthias Weiger and Brian Short, who we spent an agonising 30 seconds watching inch to the line, comes home 40th. Michael Nelson in 41st, these drivers more a lap down off more. Stu Simpkins in 42nd, Paul Jackson in 43rd, Joshua Flores, Ryan Flagg, Bruno Conti, Joshua Borg-Bonkowski, Michael Varglin in 48th place, Luke Leone, Marco Pinero, Jamie McGuinness, Jose Santiago, Evandro Dantas, 19 laps off our winner Rob Adams, and finally Marco Trespidi, who I'm not sure actually took the start in the end there. And that is your 55 car roundup for the end of round 1 in season 2 of 2022 Spec Racer Ford. Now we go to interviews, and we've got a few drivers waiting in the interview area. Sam, have you got anyone in particular you want to pick out?
Well, I think I've got to pick out our race winner. Mr. Aero Nom joins us in the commentary box now. Congratulations, Aero, on that race win. It must be very good to start the season on a win.
Yeah, it's very good to start, yeah, and it's a very difficult track to get away, so yeah, it was pretty good.
Absolutely, and what was sort of the fuel strategy in those early stages? Because it seemed like he had a bit of a shorter pit stop than Austin. Were you saving fuel behind him, or was that not part of the strategy there?
Yeah, in the beginning I was just going full out and hoping to get away like we did, so yeah, and then I saved fuel behind Austin, so yeah.
And it seemed like with about quarter of an hour ago, Austin was catching up to you. Gap went from about 2 seconds to maybe 1.2, 1.3, and then you were able to pull away again. I mean, was that just the traffic, or were you able to find a little bit of extra pace in those closing laps?
Well, the gap from the pits was 2 seconds, and then I think it's the same lap or next lap I got held up in the first or second sector, so yeah, that's why the gap was 1 second, but I think Austin made a mistake, because there is no way I can get away with 1 second gap, so it was more Austin making a mistake there at the end, and yeah, then good race I was a little bit faster.
Well, congratulations on another race win. Is there anyone you'd like to give a shout out to?
Yeah, I'd like to thank the league admins, the organizers, the sponsors, and all the drivers, and you there in the booth.
Great, well, thanks for having a chat with us, and best of luck for next week.
See ya.
Nom there, your race winner tonight by 2.5 seconds. Adam, who would you like to check out next?
I think I'm going to pull in Tom Renders, our Spec 2 class winner. If he can join us now. Tom, you're in the box with us, with myself and Sam. How was that for you tonight?
Hi, good evening. It's great. I mean, first race of the season, the top 10, and a win in the Spec 2. It's great.
Yeah, you finished 7th overall. Obviously, spent the entire race in battles with the pro drivers. How does that make you feel when you're up amongst the front runners?
Yeah, it makes me feel a little proud of myself. I think I've started racing this series, I think 1.5 years ago, with a little break in between, and yeah, I think I made some progress. To see that back into the results, it's just great. And yeah, I mean the finish today, 0.6 of a second with Bobby was intense. Great, thanks.
Yeah, you came across the line absolutely almost nose to nose, didn't you, with one of your battle partners for the night. Now, obviously, Monza's a high-speed circuit, lots of drafting out there tonight. Were you at all nervous to be spending so much of the race right up against other cars?
No, not really. I mean, I'm used to drafting because I had some cycling history when I was younger, so I know how this kind of races are played. It's just an awful lot of waiting, maybe, but yeah, when the opportunity comes, you just want to strike. But I lost connection due to some of the incidents. I mean, it was small incidents, but we lost a couple of seconds, and then yeah, when you're out of the draft, I'm not that fast as the front runners, so yeah, I could follow good in the slipstream, but when out of it, I lost some time.
Yeah, and next week we're at a very different circuit, a completely change of pace with Tsukuba. How are you looking forward to that one?
To be honest, that's probably my worst track, so I've counted this one as an off week, but I will still try, but I always end up in the mess there, so it's a bit of a hate-love relationship with that track.
Very good, Tom. If you want to take a chance to give shout out to anyone before you leave us.
Of course, always Steve Ray. He sets up this league for us, and yeah, it's just great. It's a great community. It's a great event, and just love it. So thanks to him.
Tom Render's there, our winner in Spec 2, and I think we've got just enough time to interview our second place overall Austin winner. If I drag him into the box for you, Sam.
Well, I think if anything, we can have a chat with Austin. Really good result for Austin there in second position tonight. Yeah, congratulations. And it wasn't the race win tonight, Austin, but I imagine you're still very pleased with that top 2 finish.
Yeah, certainly. Especially on a track like this where it's such a heavy draft track. You know, it's easy to just get overtaken by somebody or get taken out by somebody. So a second place is very good. I'm happy with it.
How is it in those early stages? I mean, are you able to enjoy it when it's that close, or is it just a bit nerve-wracking when you're about staying 3 wide?
Yeah, you got to kind of change your mindset. I think it's just survive, stay in touch. You know, don't make a mistake that gets you out of the draft, or don't make a mistake that ruins your race or another person's race. You know, with the draft, it's so friendly. You just drive cautiously, stay in that draft, and everything will be okay. And then you either get a breakaway or out of the pits, then it's time to race.
We were chatting to Aero earlier on. He was saying how he was held up in a bit of traffic after the pit stop, and then the gap went from about 1.2 seconds to 2 seconds. Was there a mistake from yourself, or did he just have a bit too much pace to pull away?
No, I think props to him. He's a fast driver. I had a chance there. You know, I was almost in his draft, and he just crushed the next couple of chicanes and started pulling away. I think he's faster than I am. And then once he got a couple of drafts from the next few lap cars, there was no chance for me. So I just kind of went into play it safe mode.
You've got a lot of experience in these cars over the past certainly a couple of seasons. What's the training process like for you when you're getting ready for one of these races? Can you just jump in 10 minutes beforehand and sort of be on pace, or does it take a bit more practice than that to have a performance like this?
For a track like this, it's mostly drafts, so you could get away with not much practice. I generally do faux speed on Sunday nights, which is great. It's a hosted practice for everybody. Dan Sadra hosts it. Thank you to him. Shout out to him. And then I do one race during the week, usually, and then I just take a break until Sunday. It's great.
Well, congratulations, Austin, on your second place. Certainly the practice that you did do was very valuable. Is there anyone you'd like to go shout out to?
Yeah, I mentioned Dan Sadro. That's somebody who I've never shouted out before, but he definitely deserves it. Stevie Ray runs a great league. Race Voice, I hear they sponsored us again and gave us a better package even, so thank you to them. And obviously, thank you to Apex. You guys are great hosting this season after season. I always love watching them.
Well, thank you for the very kind words, and yeah, best of luck that you go one bet next week.
Thank you.
And I think we have time for one more interview, Adam.
Yeah, I'll pull Chris Murakami up into the box with us. Waiting on a few technical aspects. Chris, you join us in the box after yet another win in the Masters category. How are you feeling?
Good. I was really worried I had 10 incidences, and I was kind of just wanted to drive on my own, which was good at the last half. So, yeah, hanging on.
Yeah, you qualified up in 8th place for this one, so obviously high up the grid. Your nearest rivals were several rows behind you. Were you expecting an easy tonight?
Oh, it's never easy. It's never easy. No, anything can happen. No, I don't expect anything really. I was hoping I didn't get into any trouble. Had a few little bumps. I got me some 4Xs that seemed to be, they weren't hard. I don't think I got any damage, but before I knew it, I had all these incidences, and so I was, so everything worked out.
Yeah, obviously you spent most of your race battling hard with the pro drivers, the Spec 1 drivers. In the broadcast, we were watching Antonio Reyes steadily closing down on you. Did you ever think you might get into a battle with him tonight?
Well, I was just lucky that the end came, because I did see him. I saw two guys back there catching, and it ended up being one more lap, so I got lucky.
Yeah, and next week we're going from Monza, big wide open circuit, to the tiny little Tsukuba. How are you looking forward to that one?
Oh, I don't like Tsukuba. It's probably my least favorite track, I would say. Something about these Japanese tracks, they just don't want to treat me well.
Thanks for joining us tonight, Chris.
Hey, thank you.
As we come to the end of our broadcast now, thank you to all the drivers who joined us both on the track and in the interview room. If you've enjoyed watching the video, watching our broadcast tonight, take the time to like and subscribe to the channel, or alternatively you can like us on Facebook, Instagram and Twitter under Apex Racing TV. And Sam, I think you've got some other races coming up on the channel tonight.
Yeah, we've got the XSLR Lotus 79 series, which I watched a couple of weeks back in the darkness of Silverstone. Hopefully that again. And then we've also got the Colorado Karting Tour iRacing Winter Series, got the AOL Mazda Cup. I think that's the fourth to final rounds at Spa. That'll be really good. And then also Rikmatech World Challenge and Ray Esports Racing League as well, coming up in the next few days on Apex Racing TV. So yeah, like Adam was saying, or subscribe to the channel and click that notification button so you know whenever we go live with the broadcast.
Thanks very much, Sam. Thank you also to Jonathan in the booth controlling our cameras and overlays tonight. That's round one in the books here from Monza of the Spec Race Ford Weekend Warriors. We hope you've enjoyed joining us, watching some fabulous racing. We'll do it all again next week. From myself, Jonathan and Sam, have a good night, day or morning, wherever you are in the world. Good night.